seeking the lost, yes, kindly entreating, wanderers on our mountain astray. Come unto me, his message repeating, words of the Master speaking today. Going afar upon the mountain.
Good afternoon, everybody. I guess it's my time now to share something. All right, let's see what can I share with you. Well, how about I share something with you about my recent trip to Sri Lanka. This was a big challenge. You know, when you are trying to do God's will and answering calls to travel, especially that far away, there's always some distractions that come along the way, some difficulties. So when I answered that call, that Macedonian call to visit Sri Lanka, where I live in the US, I would have to take at least 3 flights, 2 to 3 connections to get to Sri Lanka. So I would take a flight from Spokane, Washington. Then that flight will take me to Seattle, Washington, which is, we're talking about the West Coast now of the US. And then from there, that connection from Seattle will take me to Vancouver, Canada. Then from Vancouver, Canada, next flight will take me to Hong Kong. And then from Hong Kong, and the next flight will take me to Sri Lanka. I believe it's about 26 hours or something like that. Yeah, it is about 26 hours. So anyway, I was trying to be prepared for that for the flight. I had to leave. My flight left at 7:15 in the morning. And this was Sunday morning. So Sabbath, I had 2 services, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, because I was so busy with the videos and the meetings. I didn't sleep not even a minute that night. Then there was a sister who, elderly lady, she took me to the airport, but she said I had to drive. So I drove myself to the airport, not getting even 1 minute of sleep. Then when I got to Spokane, took that flight. It was a short flight, so I didn't have time really to sleep. I was looking forward to the flight from Vancouver to Hong Kong, because that was the longest one, to sleep. But when I got to Spokane, Washington, no, Seattle, Washington, the flight I was supposed to take from there to Vancouver was delayed because of mechanical issues. So it was delayed for over an hour. And they said I was going to miss my connection. And sure enough, by the time I left there to Vancouver, Canada, I missed that connection. I was very tired and exhausted and hungry. I didn't know what to do. The only thing that was playing in my mind was, why don't I just go back home? Why am I going there? So I started to entertain this discouragement, this thought, this idea that, I'm too tired for this. And then when I went to ask and inquire about my dilemma, and they told me that they're sorry about that, but they had to rebook me. I didn't have to pay for it. But I found out that the next flight won't leave until 6-8 hours later. So I had to spend another 6 to 8 hours at the airport. But that's not even the end of it. The next flight I would take from there will take me back to US. It will take me back to US, but this time, now keep in mind, the United States is a big country. I'm still on the west side of the US and Canada. Vancouver is on the west side, is right above where I live. So now that flight will take me from Vancouver, Canada to New York, to the East Coast. That's about 6-7 hours flight. And then from New York, I would take another flight to Hong Kong. Not Hong Kong, to Dubai. That's about 14 hours flight. And then from there, from Dubai, I would take another flight for 3.5 hours to Sri Lanka. Now, you could imagine how I would feel about this. I spent about 2 days flying. I spent about 2 days flying from US to another US airport, to Canada, then back to US, to Dubai, then to Sri Lanka. By the time I got to Sri Lanka, I was ready to pass out. Then there was another dilemma. What was the dilemma? I had 2 suitcases that were supposed to follow me from the very first flight. Now I'm wondering where the suitcases are because I missed the third flight from Vancouver. And they couldn't tell me where the suitcases are. They said, okay, when you get to Sri Lanka, then you can inquire about them. Okay? So I got to Sri Lanka, and I started to inquire about them. They didn't know. So I kept asking question and question. Then after about an hour and a half waiting at the airport to find out what happened to the suitcases, then they told me, oh yeah, your suitcases are on the way. I said, what do you mean they are on the way? They were supposed to follow me here. They were supposed to be here with me. They said, yeah, it will come later, a few hours from now. I said, what, a few hours from now? Now, the place, the hosts, the people who came to pick me up, they live 5 hours away from the airport. So you could imagine to go 5 hours to the airport and then coming back, that's too much. So we waited at the airport. So I landed in Sri Lanka. It was 4:30 in the afternoon, I believe it was. 4:30 in the afternoon. You know what time I left that airport? Now, I landed at 4:30 in the afternoon. I left that airport at 2:30 a.m. 2:30 a.m. the following day, basically. I was ready to pass out. But you know what? I started to surrender to God. I said, you know, I'm not in control. You know, this body is weak, you see, but I'm willing, Lord. You know, I am willing. But after all the perseverance, by the grace of God, I was able to see the fruit, you know, of being patient and labor. We ended up doing 10 baptisms there in Sri Lanka, you know, by the grace of God. So, you know, sometimes things happen, you don't know why. Even though it might, you know, feel very bad or looks very bad, you just have to surrender. But there's nothing else I could do. I just had to surrender. But, you know, even 2 days, 3 days after that, I was still in shock. My body was still in shock. My body was still tired from all of this. Because I really didn't sleep for 2 days. I really didn't sleep for 2 days. But, you know, I thank God, nevertheless, for the experience, because the brethren there really needed some help. They had been asking for help, seeking for help for years, in the same situation like you here. They were kicked out, and they tried to start something together. And they've been reaching out even to those within the main churches. And I was able even to speak at one of those main churches there, and they were very, very blessed. To God be the glory. Amen? Amen.
Thus would I go on missions of mercy, following Christ from day unto day, cheering the faint and raising the fallen, pointing the lost to Jesus the way, going afar upon the mountain, bringing the water back again into the fold of my Redeemer. of my